And we're XX Science.
So, today we're going to be doing a brief little sort of revision, or if you don't know anything about it, a little bit of teaching session on DNA. So, what does DNA actually stand for?
So it stands for Deoxyribonucleic Acid, which is a fun word.
Which is why we call it DNA, because that's really, really big and complicated. So, what actually is it? Now that we know the big long word that doesn't actually mean very much to most people, what is DNA?
Well, it's the building blocks of organisms. So you've got a good metaphor for that, really, haven't you?
I do. So, if you think about it, any book that you read in English, be it Harry Potter, 1984, the Bible, a textbook, anything, that is always made up of 26 letters, with a bit of punctuation thrown in here and there. So every living thing is made up of 4 letters.
Only 4?
Only 4.
Oh my god.
Well, it can get a little bit more complicated, but for the most part, 4. So these are the kind of building blocks of DNA. So DNA is made up of one of 4 bases, so one of these 4 letters.
So that's C, T, A and G.
Yep, attached to a sugar phosphate backbone, which is what makes the nice spiral helix shape that everyone is so familiar with. So basically these bases, these letters, pair up. So G always pairs with C and A pairs with T to make what we call a base pair.
And I always remembered that when I needed to remember which paired with which, as George Clooney. Yeah, I didn't remember the A and T at all, I just knew that G and C came together, so it was George Clooney.
That's a helpful tip. A set of 3 of these base pairs, so say GC and AT and TA, that would make what is called a codon. Now, each codon is like a little sentence. It's a little instruction to the cell to build an amino acid. Now, an amino acid is a very small building block, a bit like Lego, little piece of a bigger thing called a protein, a sentence that can make up a chapter. So it's all really simply, it's all just instructions. It's like following a recipe.
Yeah.
The cell follows the instructions in the DNA to make a cake, or to make a blood cell. Or,
Cake would be better.
Cake would be better. What does DNA do, apart from just coding? Does it do anything special?
Well, it replicates itself, and it has to do that with very, very high fidelity. So what that means is it's got to try and make sure that when it replicates, it's the same. So the 2 that come from it, exactly the same as the first one. Sometimes there are problems with that, but most of the time, it's perfect.
So it doesn't make any mistakes?
Yeah.
Or if it does, those
That's
mistakes
rectified.
are corrected by other things happening in the cell.
So why does it have to replicate itself? It's because DNA is in every single one of your cells. So obviously cells are multiplying all the time, and the DNA has got to replicate so it can be inside both of those cells. Mostly in the nucleus, so right in the centre, but also in the mitochondria. And as we know, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Important revision tip, especially for all you GCSE students out there.
Yes.
So what about in replication? Like not replication of an individual cell.
Replication of an individual.
Yeah, of the entire organism.
Are you talking meiosis right now? Meiosis? So the first one what we're talking about was mitosis, so that's when it replicates to be another cell in your body.
Yeah,
but when
so it's making one of the same of you.
Yeah, but the other is meiosis, and again, another fun one for you to remember. Mitosis happens in your toes, meiosis happens in your ovaries. If, you have ovaries. So meiosis is what happens when you create a gamete or a sex cell, and that is haploid. So what that means is it's only got a little half of your DNA in there, and that is because the other little half from the other parent will fertilise it, and they'll come together to create an entire new DNA. So everybody has half of their DNA from their mother and half from their father.
Yeah, you're not going to be half down the middle, half of you looks like your dad and half of you looks like your mum. You're going to be a weird little mix of everything.
And there's lots of codons, say that there's thousands that code for hair stuff. So if you get a little mix of that, so I've got all the different mixes of my parents, and ended up with this hair colour. Totally, this is natural. What's a chromosome?
So chromosomes are what we call DNA when it's very, very condensed, which it is all the time in your cells. So it's got to be very, very condensed and very spiraled up, otherwise it wouldn't fit. And your DNA would stretch out to be far, far taller than you are. So different species and different organisms have different numbers of chromosomes. So humans have 23 pairs. Fruit flies, they only have 4.
Oh,
So
only
you
little
might
though.
think, yeah, so you might think that, you know, maybe the size of an animal dictates how many chromosomes it does. No.
Oh.
Dogs have 39 pairs of chromosomes.
Okay.
And dogs are smaller than humans. But then also you say fruit flies got 4, so you might say, okay, do animals have more chromosomes than plants then? No. A rice plant has 12 pairs of chromosomes, and the largest number of chromosomes by any known organism belongs to a particular species of fern. So there's lots of different numbers of chromosomes you can have. Some of them are useless as well. Some of them literally don't do anything. Some of your genes just
sit around.
They
Lots
literally
of
don't mean anything.
Lots of it's
It's just nonsense.
Yeah, replications that aren't meant to be there. They're just hanging around.
Or that we just don't use anymore. So that was our quick little revision session on
A
DNA.
brief foray into DNA for you.
Hopefully that's been quite helpful if any of you are doing biology exams. And
Or if you just wanted to learn more about what DNA is.
yeah, or if you just didn't know what it was, hopefully now you do. So I've been Beth.
And I've been Lucy.
And we've been XX Science.